Welcome to UK Explored. In this video I'm going to show you the most deprived and dangerous areas to live in Weston Super Mare. Now Weston is actually one of the more popular seaside destinations, although it always seems to be ranked near the bottom of lists that rank the seaside destinations across the country. But the seafront isn't that bad, honestly, even if taking a pee does cost 20 pence, which is a bit ridiculous. Things start to get a bit shady as soon as you head off the main strip into the town though, and the economic decline of the UK is very obvious here. There are loads of closed down and boarded up shops. It's generally pretty messy with litter everywhere. Coffee shops, discount stores, vape shops and bookies seem to be the main businesses flourishing, much is the case across a lot of the country right now. And the area is facing a bit of a crisis with a number of refugees becoming homeless due to the lack of resources. But all of that said, it's the housing estates where the effects of a decline in UK really starts to show. If you've ever dreamt of living beside the sea, here are two of the worst areas in Weston that you'll want to avoid. The first estate is Bournville, as in the chocolate, which is located just out of sight from the seafront to the east. You may not have heard of Bournville, but it's one of the most notorious estates in Weston, and in fact, the whole of Somerset. That's not conjecture on my part. Bournville is ranked close to the top 100 most deprived areas across the whole of the UK, and it also has the highest crime rate in Weston outside of the town centre. Walking around the area, as you can see, it's very built up and densely populated with loads of flats and a few high-rise buildings. And I can also say that from walking around here, the stats are no real surprise. There's always a strong correlation between how densely populated an area is and the number of crimes and the level of antisocial behaviour. I don't know what the deal is with this shopping area. This was Saturday afternoon, all of the shutters are down. I think the shops might have been open, but they either want to give the impression that they're not, or they're just scared of having their windows put in. I don't know. In fact, I looked at some of the reviews for a couple of the shops, and people have left comments saying that they don't know if the shops are closed, or they have no idea when they're open. Oh, and don't bother calling Boots, as they never answer apparently. It's all kind of weird, to be honest. Just around the corner from the shops is the Chocolate Garden, which is probably the most wholesome story attached to Bournville that I could find. Back in 2010-ish, a group of residents came up with the idea of transforming a space into an area that the community could benefit from. They jumped through a few hoops to make it happen. The garden cost a whopping $108,000 to build, and the money was raised through various fundraising ventures, and half of it came from the National Lottery Fund. It's a pretty awesome story, to be honest, and it's nice to see it's been looked after and it's still being used today. Anyway, back in the estate, I saw more than enough discarded mattresses and sofas to last a lifetime. And I don't include interactions with people on this channel, but I did have a couple of unpleasant ones. So while I can't imagine why you'd find yourself here if you don't live here, do be careful if you're passing through. For a relatively small area, there are some pretty serious crimes coming out of Bournville. Drugs busts are not uncommon. And I did get a good whiff of weed several times while walking around, so it's not surprising. There have been murders, such as the well-known story going back a few years where a man was seriously assaulted by some kids outside his house. And I read a few crazy stories about kids here with ASBOs continuing to grow up as a problem and cause chaos on the estate. It sounds like a real nightmare at times, to be honest. There will be some people who challenge this, there always is, but the stats don't lie. Bournville in Weston is up there with the worst areas to live in the country. Further north, we have an area called Worle. Now, Worle isn't far behind Bournville in terms of deprivation and poverty, with around 60% of households being classified as deprived. But the crime rate is a lot lower, and it certainly feels like a safer place to walk around, so it does have that going for it. But visually, it's a similar story to Bournville. There are loads of social housing blocks of flats in need of a facelift. There are mattresses and other bulky items dumped around most corners, and I think I saw all the pieces of this sofa disassembled throughout the estate. Again, there wasn't much open in the local shopping area and they looked pretty fortified, and this is nothing new, seeing local businesses struggle in this climate. I couldn't get a good breakdown on the statistics, but where there's poverty, there's always a high rate of shoplifting, so I bet some of these shops will get terrorised. On that note, looking through some of the recent headlines, there's a lot of stuff to do with kids, even as young as 12 being arrested on the estate, and ASBOs get handed out like candy around here. But this doesn't do much to stop these little terrors growing up into career criminals. Serious assaults are a thing, as you'd expect, as are some pretty serious county lines drug operations that run through the whole of Weston. I hope you enjoyed this look beyond the touristy part of Weston into the estates. North Somerset is one of the most deprived areas in the country. This is the harsh reality of what a growing number of households are facing across the UK right now. And unless something drastic changes at the top, things at the bottom are never going to get better. I love hearing from you guys. Do feel free to drop a comment below and check out the videos on the screen now if you want to see even more shocking areas than this that I've filmed across the UK.